Well, you guys got quite a lot faster than I'm used to. Thank you guys for being able to be here this evening. My name is Annie Aker. I am the Director of Evangelization, Family Life, and Pastoral Ministries at Sacred Heart of Jesus in Cicero, so just up the road. But I am also co-directing NCYC this year. Jessica Wade, who is the Evangelization Specialist with Youth and Young Adult Ministry for the Diocese, is my co-leader. She's never done NCYC before, and she's been on the job not quite a year for the Diocese, so I've been mentoring her and working with her to be able to make the conference happen. I took over 2 years ago from Paul Seguentes, about 4 months before NCYC happened. It was quite the adventure to take over 4 months before NCYC, but I had diocesan and group leading experience before, so this will be my second go-round, my first time fully through from planning to pick up. So I am so thankful you all are able to be here this evening. I am going to be very cognizant and recognizing of time because I know you all have busy lives, and to give up an hour on a Thursday evening is important, and so I want to respect that. So my hope is that depending on how questions go, inside conversations will be done in less than an hour. Hopefully right around that time. But let's see if my clicker will work. Let's get rolling. So if we can put ourselves in the place of the Holy Spirit and center ourselves for prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Come, Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, I ask that you be with us as we talk about the upcoming National Catholic Youth Conference. May you set our hearts ablaze, much as Chaperone was. Help us guide these youth, guide our young people, guide our hearts, protect us, keep us safe, and allow us all those encounters with your Son. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
God and Son, Holy Spirit.
Amen.
So quick introductions. We're going to go around the room. This will probably take the longest, but you all are serving together for the 3-day conference. And so having the opportunity to make sure that you know each other is important, whether you are from the same pastorate or not, so that when you glance around the room for group leader meetings or at the rally or different functions throughout NCYC, you know, hey, I recognize that face. They're part of our pastorate. So if you would, share your name and pastorate. How many times you have attended NCYC? Did you get recruited, or were you quick to volunteer to be a chaperone? And then it wouldn't be applicable for this year if we didn't talk about COVID. The last major youth ministry event for many of us was NCYC 2019, because then we had the holidays, and we came back from the holidays, and then there was this COVID thing happening, and then youth ministry shut down. So coming back into youth ministry and doing NCYC as things are starting to get back to somewhat normal. So what did you discover about yourself during COVID? So I'll go first. Like I said, my name is Annie Aker. I am at Sacred Heart in Cicero. This will be my 9th NCYC. I missed 2 since I was a sophomore in high school. So I did not go to Houston. My parents opted to send my brother over me my senior year to Houston, and I did not, I know. And actually, after hearing the stories at Houston, I was okay with that. And then I did not go to Columbus. So I was transitioning between positions to when Columbus happened. I was what they called an animator in, what year was that? 01, where we had these giant puppet things that looked like they were strung with shower curtains, and we had to hold these arms and literally animate them. So that was one of my jobs when I got recruited in 01. I have been on the national coordination team and the local steering committee when NCYC was brought back to Indianapolis in 2011, is that right? Yeah, 10 years ago. So I was part of that and did general hospitality. So I know the inner workings and having worked with NCYC on that. So I did not really get recruited. Jessica begged a little bit to have me help so that she knew that what she was doing. I had actually been slowly transitioning out of youth ministry, and this pulled me right back in for this year. And then something I discovered about myself during COVID. So COVID happened the first year of my marriage. So I celebrated my first anniversary in lockdown. because my anniversary is March 23rd. So newlywed, COVID, still trying to learn how to live together and work together, and then suddenly we're locked in a house together when we both have very busy lives. Was quite interesting. So it was make or break for us. We had to learn how to talk to each other and overcome some obstacles and figure out how to balance work, relationship, life, all in the same 1,000 square foot house. So it was good for us. We actually learned that we enjoyed watching a Netflix or HBO series together, and we kind of gone back and started looking at some of the cult classics. So like the first show that we watched was Mad Men. So we weren't allowed to progress on the episodes without the other. And those early days of it, we could sit and watch like 5 episodes and just, bum around. We actually continued that. We just wrapped up The Sopranos like 2 months ago, which worked out nicely with the timing because then The Many Saints of Newark just came out, which not a fan. But that's something right now we're looking for our next show and trying to find those classics, kind of cult hits from the 90s and early 2000s that we continue to watch. Anybody want to volunteer to go next, and then we'll work our way around? All right,
I'll go first. I'm Matt Pfeiffer. I'm with St. Louis de Montfort Catholic Church. This will be my second NCYC. My first one was 2019. I am the assistant to youth ministry at SLDM, so I don't know if I was really recruited. I just kind of fell in my lap after our high school youth minister took a job at Cathedral. The option was, after he left, I think we're going to drop NCYC for this year, and I was like, no, we can't do that. So I took it under my wing, and that's kind of where I've been steering the ship as best I can. Thank you to Annie and Jessica for keeping me honest and working through that. And probably the one thing the top thing I discovered about myself during COVID was probably that I'm in it for youth. We went back and forth over COVID of like, how can we serve our youth during this? So many of them were so fed up with Zoom meetings, but yet that was all we really had. And so, we would spend a lot of time, we would have a formal Zoom meeting, but then I would find myself like 30, 40, 50 minutes after that meeting closed of just sitting and talking with the kids over a camera. And we would just talk about like, where are you at like mentally right now? And it was, at the time I didn't really think much of it because I thought, it was just something extra, but then it turned out that actually was a good thing for them, and we've had more kids show up now more than we did before, and it's been interesting. It's been a little bit of a blessing in disguise, to be honest. So kind of clarified for me why I do what I do, and it's definitely to get the kids connected more with Christ, and no better thing than NCYC. So that's me.
Awesome. Do we get to go left or right?
Left. Sorry. Right felt like the right thing, and I usually like to zig when people zag, so left.
I'm Jocelyn Alcala. I'm from the pastorate of Church of the Blessed Sacrament in West Lafayette, Indiana. I'm director of evangelization there. I've never attended NCYC, and I'm actually super excited because last NCYC, all of the Instagram people I follow were there, and I was like, dang, I'm missing out. How did I get recruited? I will be a chaperone with Edith Torres, who is working for Pastoral Juvenil at the diocesan level, and she received a scholarship to take, I don't know how many Hispanic teens to NCYC, and that cohort will be doing an intentional reflection after NCYC to see how we can improve intercultural experiences at those national level conferences.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and something I discovered about myself during COVID, that's what I was thinking about when you were like, he's gonna go left. I discovered that I can live by myself. It was the first time I lived by myself. I was in an echo community before COVID, and then COVID hit, and I was absolutely by myself in a new state, new house. It was crazy, but it's good.
You've had a little taste of what the Federation can do, though, having been down at NCCYM. So
yeah, that's true.
A tiny taste, but not quite the same. All right, we'll keep going.
I'm Deanna Dean, and I am the new coordinator of youth ministry at St. Maria Goretti, 5 weeks yesterday. But I've been in ministry for about 20 years, so I've been to NCYC, this will be my 7th time. I wasn't really recruited. It's a cool part of my job description to be able to go. Something I discovered about myself, that's the hardest question. I do not like the smell of hand sanitizer, and I found this new hand sanitizer that smells like birthday cake, and I'm addicted to it, so that's what I learned when we were out
That antiseptic smell.
Not good, it smells really good.
How's the taste?
I haven't drank it yet.
I'm Tony Powers. I'm from San Alfonso in Zionsville. I've been to NCYC 3/4 of the time.
Yeah, his wife had a baby in the middle of NCYC.
Her water literally.
You are like
So,
We were thankful that we knew that was going to obviously happen, so
Yeah.
we set up parameters for it.
just a helpful tip, if anyone on your team is pregnant and anywhere near giving birth, the answer is no.
I tried with one of the pregnant women and made sure that they were not at NCYC that week, but then I couldn't get it with Christy, so.
No. My wife is also the director of youth ministry at San Alfonso, which is also how I got recruited, and also why she would not go. So looking forward to actually making it all the way through this time. And so having a baby at NCYC means that he was about 3 months old when the COVID shutdown happened. And I learned that I can sleep through a crying baby.
Wow.
I'm sure Christy just loves.
Yeah. We had some conversations about that.
Yeah. Thanks. Up to you, Jake.
I'm Jake Teitchen. I am from here at Our Lady of Grace. This will be my 9th NCYC. And I work here in youth ministry, so I do the recruiting of other people to come to NCYC. But it's one of my favorite events for young people, and we push it pretty hard because it's, I think it yields good fruit. We had moved to a new house right before COVID hit, and so I tried to take on the house project thing once COVID happened. I learned not the best of those, and but I did. There was an opportunity to meet a lot of our neighbors who were very helpful, so I also learned that they're great neighbors.
We'll just keep going and then snake back to back.
My name is Heidi Bransky. I go to Our Lady of Grace. This is my first NCYC because, this is my first opportunity. When I was in high school, I was not Catholic, so I really wanted to go. And I also, mostly selfishly, was like, I heard about NCYC and was like, wow, I wish I could go to that, but I'm too old. Oh wait, I can be a chaperone. And so I thanked Jake to let me be a chaperone. And during COVID, my COVID experience was kind of weird because I had just moved out on my own, well, sort of with my brother, both young adults, to Airbnb. We'd been in our apartment for like 2 months, and then COVID happened, but we both were in I was working for a hotel and he was working in food service, so neither of us stopped going to work the whole time, and it was really kind of scary sometimes. The hotel I was at, we never got to 0 people in the house, but there were often nights where it would just be me working and one person in the whole hotel, and I'd just be there alone for 9-hour shifts, and I had to carry with me a government document that would say that I was an essential worker, and because they had a few times where they had the curfews and stuff, and so early on when no one was really supposed to go out, so we had this government document that was if I'm pulled over, I'm supposed to be going somewhere because I'm essential, and it was kind of terrifying. But I would say that during COVID, I learned that despite being an introvert and not being someone who generally loves being social, I need community.
I'm Marie Nagel, and I go to Our Lady of Grace here. I have never been to NCYC, but I'm on the core team for Life Team, and
Yeah, I'm going with my kids. I want to be with them when they're there. My own daughter is coming with me. And something I discovered about myself during COVID. I need that time where everyone is out of my house.
Yes.
I need that. I mean, when everyone was home, like, things just didn't stop. Breakfast bled into the next person's lunch, that bled into all the afternoon snacks, and like, at no point did anything stop, and it drove me mad. That's what I'm like.
I made my husband pick up farming.
I needed to go.
We had a farmer best friend, and about 2 months into it, I was like, please go help with like
Yeah.
planting season. Just get out of my house.
I need to know a farmer friend for my husband.
It was great fun. It was great.
I'm Hope, and I go here at Our Lady of Grace. This is my third time going, second time chaperoning. And I didn't get roped in because it's like one of my favorite events, so I thought I'd help out again. And something I discovered, I just already knew that I don't like being alone, so it just like made it worse. But I was in the middle of my freshman year of college and got sent home, so that was really rough. Being with my friends and not being able to see them. So, yeah.
I'm John Hannigan. I go to Our Lady of Grace. This is my 5th NCYC. And I guess I learned just the importance of community and being around the people here in my community at OLG.
I'm Annette Leash, also called Netsie, Sweet One Works. I attend here at Our Lady of Grace. I work in youth ministry here. I'm the youth ministry assistant. So this is my 5th NCYC. I missed 2019, but other than that, I've been every time since 12. And I just love it. It's one of my favorite things that we do. So jumped on board to be able to go again. Something I discovered about myself was work-wise, a lot of what I do is behind the scenes stuff for Jake and for Julia, and a lot of that kind of thing can be done at home, but I discovered I don't like it so much to be done at home. I really missed those sort of spontaneous, organic conversations that happen when you are in the same room with someone. And even though we did a lot of video check-ins and FaceTimed and Zoomed and all of those things, trying to keep ministry going as much as we could, it's not the same as physically being in the same room with other people. And it's great working from home opportunity is. There's just something about being in the presence of other people that kind of sparks that. And it's totally good.
I am Rachel Gilman, and I am from Holy Spirit Geist. This will be my 3rd NCYC. This year, though, I'm bringing a group mixed with St. John County and Holy Spirit.
And not a broken foot.
And me, but yes. Oh yeah, that's right. Last NCYC, I was in a wheelchair the entire time, so hoping to walk around this time. Yeah, so I'm the high school youth minister at Holy Spirit, so part of my job to recruit said people to come with. But I love going. It's super fun for me and a great opportunity to get to know a smaller group of our kids in our youth ministry program. I've discovered that I'm usually a person that is at everything, going to everything all the time, and my weekends are always booked or traveling. And I really discovered actually I enjoy having days of nothing, where like I'm forced to have to just be still, and I've really cherished that now, and so I don't actually plan as much as I used to, and I've enjoyed that, experiencing that for my life now.
My name is Brendan O'Neill, and I go to Holy Spirit Geist. This will be my 3rd NCYC, just I'm a core team member as well. I was recruited really, I remember we did Destination Jesus once, and then we moved to doing NCYC. And the first one, maybe I was recruited, but after going once, it's like, oh, now I'm selfish with this spot. And I'm like, we almost didn't have any boys going, and I was like, it wouldn't make sense for me to go. Thankfully, we had a group of 9 and only 2 boys, but I'm glad to be there, so I have a reason to go as well. I discovered, you guys are all much more spiritual than I am, but I discovered that I need the structure of getting out of the house. I have more energy and I'm better about that, but I also discovered that I'm more comfortable going places in sweatpants that I used to not. You know, like Panera and Meyer. It's like, this is okay.
Curbside pickup is my new best friend. I can just go in, my house shoes and just put it in my car. I don't even have to go back it out. Yeah. Awesome. And last but not least.
My name is Rodrigo Rosa Santiago. I think this is going to be like the first official as a chaperone. I got recruited by NCYC as well. I work with the Hispanic ministry in Anderson, Indiana. So I work with St. Mary's and St. Ambrose during events. And I also work with the Diocese of both Lafayette and the Archdiocese of Indianapolis with the Hispanic ministry. I think 19, I just helped out as a watcher at night. I mean, sure no one goes out at night.
As a chaperone, thank you.
So during that time, actually, I was, after COVID hit, I was actually promoted in my job. So I always spent time at work, but what changed, nothing really changed in my life. I don't know if that's good or bad. Maybe I just don't like people like that. But when I would go out and go running, things like that, I would saw more people, which made me more mad. Just don't know how I feel about that. Maybe that was my own time, but I try to find different avenues, different things to do and stuff like that. But yeah, so it's a good thing for me, I guess. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. Like we said, we all have unique stories and unique experiences, and that we bring that to the table in youth ministry, and we bring that to the table here at NCYC as well. Because we will all come away with it in different modes, but like Brendan, is that right?
Yes.
Said, like once you go one time, you just can't not go after that. Like it just captures your heart, and you're not, like you selfishly want that spot so that you're there with those kiddos and watch them grow in their faith. And then your own faith gets ignited as well. So it's a fantastic experience, and I'm so excited to be with all of you for NCYC. So a little bit of snapshot. Our numbers are really weird, so 415 is total participants between virtual, commuting, and the hotel. And then we have just over 200 that'll actually be in the hotel. There are 18 different pastorate groups, and there's a diocesan team that has been preparing and praying since January. So we really started trying to work on things through lots and lots of Microsoft Team meetings to work on details that we were trying to plan for until NCYC told us more direction. And so we actually just had a meeting on Tuesday and still trying to figure out a lot of those details because things are ever changing. So know that we've been praying for all of you, we've been preparing for all of you, and hoping that we've thought through everything at the same time too. So this year we are staying at the JW Marriott as our hotel, which is the big blue hotel in downtown. So we will be kitty corner from the convention center. So the JW is here, convention center is here, Lucas Oil is here. Last year we stayed here. So we're a little bit further away from last year, 2 years ago. We stayed, so a little bit further away. The thing to know is that skywalks won't be open in the morning and in the evenings to general sessions. That's a pretty standard thing with NCYC due to security, that they don't want people walking through the convention center until the convention center is actually open for the day. So for general sessions, the best route to follow then would be down along West Street to Lucas Oil. That'll be the shortest, easiest, and most convenient way, and then all the entrances will be open so that you can come in at this west entrance, or you can come in the north entrance, which is about over here. So something to think about as far as hotel and proximity. And then from there, it's back across the street to the convention center, be here most of the day, down back to Lucas Oil, and then walking back up to the hotel in the evening. So general lay of the land. So the theme this year is Ablaze. Our MCs are Sister Miriam James and Brian Greenfield. Both are fantastic, phenomenal speakers. I am so excited to see Sister Miriam as a MC. She's a former NCAA athlete. She is a sister that is part of SALT, and just fantastic story. She is part of the Abiding Together podcast, which is a great podcast for women. Just great message overall. And then Brian Greenfield was at DJ a few years ago. Another very, very awesome speaker. It was a great story, especially relating to men. Our keynotes, Chica, Noel, Father Leo, and Archbishop Gustavo Garcia Siller, all fantabulous. It's just awesome. I'm really excited to hear Chica's story, just following her story, following what she's done in ministry the last few years. She is from a Nigerian family, so coupling that, and then she's working with Vagabond Ministries in Pennsylvania. She's a former youth minister who just transitioned into that role with outreach. So working with underprivileged homeless youth in Pennsylvania. Noelle is from the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City. She's a singer-songwriter, been in youth ministry for a long time, so she'll have a great experience to share with us. Father Leo Padalinga is actually going to be the Friday night Eucharistic Adoration speaker. Are any of you familiar with Father Leo? Okay, so you know. He's very high energy. He is a former black belt in karate. He is a former choreographer and break dancer. He focuses on food. His ministry is called Plating Grace, and he has a show on EWTN and on Sirius XM and Catholic Radio. All compacted into a very short Filipino man. And again, story is great. How he is going to manage Eucharistic adoration, he is going to get those kids so on fire for the Eucharist because he ties everything to food and the table. So being able to relate the Eucharist and food and the table and then immediately go into Eucharistic adoration. He came to St. Bernard a few years ago for our Lenten mission, and just watching him interact with our young people and bringing them on stage and having them like throw punches at him and try to kick it, like, it's great. So I'm excited to see what he does, knowing that he is the keynote with Eucharistic adoration and how he can bring it up to a certain level, but then bring it back down to a critical level. And then our Archbishop Gustavo Garcia Siller is the Archbishop in Austin, and he will be one of the Saturday keynotes. So General NCYC Day starts with a morning session at Lucas Oil, breakouts at the thematic park at the Convention Center, meals when you can, based on when your pastorate group leader says you're eating, and then evening sessions at Lucas Oil. I'm going to kind of run through each day. Thursday, we're asking for arrival between 12 and 2, and prefer closer to 12 than closer to 2. Drop-off is at JW Marriott, and we are going to gather in the Griffin Ballroom. The Griffin Ballroom, right, if you're familiar with the JW, is immediately behind the Starbucks on the second level. So you would go up the escalator, or you would walk across the skywalk from wherever you've parked, and you will immediately find Starbucks. And this is how we're going to tell the kids too. Find Starbucks to find Griffin Ballroom. And we will be in the ballroom immediately behind that. We are storing luggage and having our rally in the same space. We have the capability to do that this year. So rally will start at 2 p.m. at Griffin Ballroom. And at the same time, we're asking for the pastorate group leaders to meet us in our hospitality room so that we can run through the most current logistics as it stands and check in and your credentials. So the rest of our chaperones will be watching our young people in the rally. And Julia Eckrich, the middle school and young adult ministry and family life ministry here, is going to be organizing our rally. So she's been working on a lot of awesome things to get the kids going. So I don't even know all the things. I just know there's lots of baby involved that we've been talking about. So, so Julia's taking care of that. So the group leader meeting, that's when we get our credentials. That's when we run through logistics, and then group leaders will go back into the rally. After the rally is over, you have an opportunity to go get food, to possibly check in at the hotel. It all just depends on when we get keys. Go over to the thematic park or the thematic village, whatever they're calling it this year, over at the convention center. Kind of have some free time until the general session. One of the things that you can do is participate in the Eucharistic procession. Those of you that have gone in past years know that usually, as the co-hosting diocese, we would receive the Eucharistic procession from our attendee to install the Blessed Sacrament in the chapel for the weekend. And NCYM is really limiting a lot of the masses and movement happening in the convention center. So this year, only our attendee is having a mass, and then doing a procession, and then installing the Eucharist in the chapel. But you have the opportunity to take your kids over to kneel as the Blessed Sacrament passes by, to participate in the procession. You have that opportunity to be a part of it. We're just not going to be the end destination like we have the last few years. So that's between 4:30 and 5. And again, they'll be going from St. John's across to the Georgia Street entrance through the convention center, and then installing in the chapel, wherever it may be. It has rotated the last couple of conferences. And then the opening general session with Chica and the MCs at Lucas Oil. Questions on Thursday? Check-in will really happen as we get keys, and we'll notify pastorate group leaders. So it might be during that downtime, it might not happen until after the general session. It really just depends with the JW and how quick they are with our keys. Yes, ma'am.
Eucharistic procession to chapel, is there going to be like a chapel room open for the weekend?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
is there hours in that, or is it going to be like all the time?
So whenever the convention center is open is when the chapel will be open, and the Blessed Sacrament will be present in the chapel. There will also be reconciliation during that time, different prayer experiences, and pastors, they've done labyrinths, all sorts of different things will happen in that first space. Other things on Thursday? Friday and Saturday look very similar. Friday, we are going to have Mass as a diocese in the hotel. We are just working out logistics. We don't know timing. We know it'll be in Griffin Ballroom. And it will just be with us as a diocese with the 3 priests who are going to the conference with us. The morning session at Lucas Oil, break out Thematic Heart, eat when you can, whenever your pastor or leader tells you so. Evening general session with adoration with Father Leo. Any questions on Friday?
I'm a little curious about who the 3 priests are. I don't know if that's a
Well, you
surprise
had
or
to
not.
ask. Father Bauer, Father Eric Sack, Father McKinley, Mike McKinley, is that right?
Sounds right.
I think that's the 3. I can never remember if it's McKinney or McKinley, and they both have the first name of mine. So, yeah. Saturday, morning general session, breakouts, thematic village, eat when you can, closing general session and Mass. And then afterwards, when we come back to the hotel, there will be some parish processing that can happen. TC Slack, who is at St. Alphonsus, is putting together the processing, and the parish group leaders will receive that at one of the meetings beforehand, so that they have it, and we'll have the Griffin Ballroom available. We'll have however you want to spread out with your groups to be able to do the processing. For those groups that are commuters, we are going to get your packets to you beforehand, before you leave, so you don't have to try to find us after Mass, so that we make sure you have them, you can do that, you can process, and you can plan when you're going to do that processing. Any questions on Saturday? Really easy. Sunday, we love you all, but go home. Which is exactly what we'll tell the kids too. We love you all, but go home. So pack up, do room checks, making sure that the rooms are in the same shape as we found them. So making sure that the rooms are not destroyed for housekeeping. Our hotel people would appreciate that. Making sure that nothing is broken, and that everybody has all of their stuff. You'd be surprised how much gets left behind at conferences. I think we had a huge storage tub last year of stuff that got left behind. So we are going to ask that the pastorate group leaders or their designate check out with the diocesan team. There will be various members of us to check out with. That way we're not wandering around the halls and seeing a young person who we know is with the pastorate that has already checked out with us and wondering why they're not picked up yet. So that just is kind of the final check to know that all of OLG is gone or all of SMG is gone, so that we're not waiting for groups to leave in the morning, because we don't leave until all of you have left. So that's just a final check for us to make sure our young people are kept safe. And then make sure you go home on fire. You're going to have Mass with 12,000 people, which is half of what would normally be there. But in Lucas Oil, you're going to have experience to Eucharistic adoration. You're going to have all these high moments, and making sure you don't just let it drop as soon as you walk away and check out on Sunday. Do something with it and be on fire for Christ. That's why the theme's ablaze. I mean, they couldn't have picked a better theme. Changes to this year, so this is where I spend most of my time. So we do have COVID-19 protocols. We can't have a conference in today's day and age without protocols. The biggest being that vaccination or a negative COVID test within 72 hours of arrival at JW Marriott is required. Jessica is working on paperwork and language for that. We believe that it's going to be an online form. We're not going to ask for copies of vaccination cards. We're going to go on the honor system on that. Just like we're not going to ask for copies of negative tests. We're going to go on the honor system on that. But, so that you all are aware, Jessica and I have to put our name on the line as representatives for the diocese with NCYC, and we can't receive our credentials until we sign a document verifying that all the people in our contingent are vaccinated or negative test within 72 hours. That's the only way that we can receive our credentials. So, knowing that, please help us. This is an added piece of paperwork and an added piece to NCYC. And especially that 72 hours before arrival thing for those chaperones and young people who are not vaccinated. That's the one piece that we're still trying to work on. Home tests do qualify. I will say that. It does not have to be a CVS or Walmart test. It does not have to be done at the doctor's office. Home tests do qualify. Antibody tests are the only things that do not qualify. So we just need to have a negative test of some kind to be submitted. So that would need to be done no later than Monday, so that we can get those results and get it taken care of. The other thing, which was a blessing in disguise, is 2 per room. Makes it real easy for doing hotel rooming lists, which is what I'm currently working on. So thank our pastorate group leaders who have roomings. I'm working on that right now. So make sure when you do bed checks that it's the right 2 people per room. Since 2 people is a lot easier to look at and say, oh yeah, there's 2 girls in there. Okay, make sure it's the right 2 girls. So that maybe another girl is not hiding in that room, or a young man is not slipped in. Like, we don't want any of that. So 2 per room, and that's the same for youth and adults. Everybody is 2 per room, with only like major minor exceptions. And then the other thing is masks are required for all events. And we are just saying from the time you leave your room until the time you get back to your room, unless you were eating or in designated times where they say you can take your mask off, masks are required. And those need to be masks that go over the nose, under the chin, and over the ears. They cannot be the bandana style. They can't be the ones that sleek around your neck that you can pull up. They want the 2-ply or the 2-layer masks that go over the ears, over the nose, and under the chin. That's going to be the thing as chaperones. We're going to have to work the hardest with each other to make sure that we are doing and wearing our masks properly. Because our young people have to do it at school. They've had to do it at school. It's become old habit to them. We as adults are a little bit more stubborn when it comes to that. So just making sure that you comply. NCYC, what is the language on there? Reserves the right to refuse entry if you're not wearing a mask. There are no small workshops this year. It is only 5 large breakout sessions. So, yeah. Basically, speakers are going to travel, young people are not. So they are going to have 5 rooms per workshop session that'll hold 3,000 to 4,000, however. So they're going to be large. And they are asking that youth stay at their seats. They not wander the aisles. They not go up to the stage. There's not going to be a lot of interacting between dioceses and delegations. But then speakers will rotate through the breakout, so then it's less movement in the hallways. How that's going to look, I'm not quite sure. That was new information a couple weeks ago. I know that Marian University is sponsoring one of the breakout rooms. That's all I know for that. But it's easier to move a speaker through the back corridors than it is for 12,000 people to be walking the halls when they're trying to really limit that movement and interaction. The other thing, that if you're reading the next bullet point and you've been in NCYC, you're going to snicker. No idling in the hallways or in front of stages, and all hallways are one way with no congregating. So usually at this conference, young people would just kind of explode their stuff in the hallway, especially by about mid-Friday afternoon, early Saturday. They would be having the really long cell phone cords plugged in and stretched out in the hallways, and especially in the side hallways, with their backpacks or their bags as pillows and eating snacks, and none of that can happen. They're asking again that hallways be for movement between workshops or the chapel or reconciliation or the thematic village, and that all hallways are going to be one way. And they're really asking then for pastor groups and diocesan delegations to not gather in those major areas. In fact, they're asking gathering in designated areas or outside to meet your group. So they're really, a lot of this is coming from the convention center as well, knowing that they've been having conventions there, and some from Indianapolis. So just help us, because we'll hear about it from Jessica and I have daily breakout sessions where we have to go to as the delegation leaders for check-ins. So then we'll have to disseminate that information back to pastorate groups, and I can already hear Maureen Gross telling us one-way hallways and no congregating as best as we can. So, and then smaller in-person attendance, normally NCYC is about 25,000 people, so we're half of that. So my understanding is that Lucas Oil is not going to be in the round as it has been in the past few years. It's going to be one side of the stadium. So we'll know then, which is a nice blessing. You're not going to have to guess where's the front that day. So you won't have to try to base your seats on where the front is. The front's staying the same. So we'll figure out what that front, which way it's facing, east, west, or south, once we get in there. But then with a smaller attendance and still using the floor, that'll still allow for spacing. And then there are two types of virtual experiences that are being offered. So especially the pastorate group leaders, if you still have young people who are interested, we do have that option, where it's either just a basic virtual experience where they're just watching, or there's interactive. And that is something that Jessica has more information about if you want more information. Question on changes.
You said you thought there would be designated group meeting places
Yes.
or outside?
Yes.
Do you know anything more about what
No.
that would look like?
No. Like the Capitol Street entrance off of Capitol and Maryland is usually a not well-used hallway, so I can see that being a gathering space. Since the thematic village is half the size as normal, but they're doing larger breakouts that might mean more towards the JW, where a lot of things aren't used, would be more of designated meet spaces.
A lot more open in that area too. It's
Yeah.
not as confined.
Right. Whereas you get towards like the Hoosier hallway, where the chapel and those meeting rooms are off of the main entrance to the thematic village, lots of that area always gets really congested. So they always preach don't gather in those areas, but people still do, and they're just going to preach even more this year to not gather in certain areas.
And then do we know what the outside food policy is in the convention center and or the hotel?
They are sticking with no carrying outside food for the convention center. I have to tell you that as a diocesan person, we are not encouraging outside food, but there you go.
No.
No, it's gonna happen, but I gotta say it, so.
Will there be places at the Marriott for the groups to go and eat lunches?
Yeah, so the Griffin Ballroom is ours for the entire weekend.
Okay.
So we will have that space. If there's specific groups that we're gonna ask that it's unlocked during certain hours and that it's open and available. So then that way, if you need to go have a place to eat and gather, if you wanna do some small group time, that kind of stuff, it will be available. So, yeah, that's ours for the weekend. There's also going to be an adult hospitality room at the JW that'll be kitty corner from the Griffin Ballroom. So if you as adults need a quiet space, it's where the diocesan office will be located for the weekend. It's where our pastor and group leader meeting will be hosted in the evenings. But yeah, that space is adult only. Youth are not going to be allowed in unless it's an emergency.
I do have a question in that regard, because Rachel, I know that they're going to be commuting as well.
Yes.
We always have meetings at the
Yes.
end of the day. So
We're
will
working
Rachel,
out with our commuters.
okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
So we have 3 pastorate groups or pairings that'll be commuting. And what we're gonna do is make sure that all information is either conveyed to you through an email, or Jessica and I are gonna share some phone calls and touch base with you.
Even if I have called in and you left me on speakerphone, that would be perfect, so,
We'll figure it out.
awesome. Okay?
I So, yeah, those are some things that we have thought about just
Okay.
this year.
I'm sorry, you may not know the answer to this, but when it mentions one way in the hallways, what about the village?
Village is also going to be one way.
Okay.
Everything is going to be one way. So yeah, whether in the village, it's not just like let your kids go and watch them disperse in the diaspora. It's not going to happen. It's really going to be winding the hallway, winding the squares together. There might be cut-throughs where you can go back to certain things. Actually, one of my parishioners is in charge of one of the sections, and I have a meeting with her. I just put NCYC volunteer info in the bulletin for her. But I'm meeting with her to say, Katie, give me more info, because I have no idea what's happening. So then that way we can communicate that to the pastorate group leader meeting in 2 weeks, and give them a better idea so they can convey it down to you guys. But as far as my understanding, yeah, everything is one way. They want people all facing the same direction.
Should I ask you about tradables, or do you have a slide for tradables?
I don't, but yeah. So as long as things are not thrown, since we know clothespins. So for those who've never attended, the thing that started a handful of years ago is young people will write their social media handle and like a scripture passage or God loves you or whatever on clothespins. And then they would try to anonymously clip your bag or your jacket or your shirt.
If you've got a hoodie, it's an open book.
Yeah, hoodies get tossed into sometimes hair, so if you have longer hair, I've had mine clipped in ponytails.
We both used to have hair until we went into it.
NCYC is not saying no tradables, they just want people to be cognizant of personal space. They do not want anything thrown. 2 years ago at the concert, King and Country, young people were throwing clothespins up like crazy on the stage to the point where they almost walked off the stage. They were getting hit and it was just not a good situation. So please help us and make sure nothing gets thrown. And if you see young people throwing them, stop them. The Thursday night entertainment at the opening session is Lecrae. He is a Christian hip hop artist. It's gonna be great. It has a great story, but it's like I don't know how they're gonna do it. It's high energy. Like it's gonna be high energy, and they don't want any of the kids to be like up against the stage. They want everybody to remain at their seats. So yeah, just help us with that because there are more of you than there are Jessica and I. So helping our young people remember they need to stay in their seat. Yeah, don't mosh pit, don't do the conga line, don't do the chains, like all that kind of stuff. They want people to stay at their seats. So, any other, before I go to the next one? Okay. Things to know. This is your first NCYC and you have not experienced it, know that the general sessions are loud. It is in Lucas Oil, and imagine it's like game day at Lucas Oil. Even with only 12,000 people, remember those are, about 10,000 a room are going to be young people. And they like to scream and yell, and the band, house band, and the speakers, they'll get fired up. So if that's something that makes you uncomfortable or gives you a headache, take your own precautions. The best tip I was given a few years ago as I started to age was bring earplugs. Because even during the bands, it gets loud and you get a headache. And the last thing you want at 9 a.m. is to not have your coffee and to have a headache. So if you need earplugs, bring earplugs. So take care of yourself, knowing that. The other thing is young people, their schedule is going to be thrown off. They're going to be eating a lot of high sugar and crap food. They're going to be low on sleep, and they're going to have high emotional experiences. Meaning the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to not drink their water and get dehydrated, and then they are going to have stomach issues. If any of you have done multiple retreats, you know of retreat gas. It's just what happens. So encouraging young people to stay hydrated. And I've been in youth ministry a really long time, so stay hydrated. You will have a water bottle. Make sure you're reminding your young people, drink your water. Don't just rely on pop, don't rely on Starbucks, drink your water. And next, if you can encourage your young people or you as chaperones and even your pastorate leader to pack good snacks. Don't just pack like I served you tonight with the high sugar crap food, but dried fruit, real fruit, protein bars, granola bars or granola that has good content in it, not just like the Quaker oat bars that's full of sugar. You know, that kind of stuff. If you need to get the liquid IV or the hydrator stuff that goes in your water, that'll help keep them hydrated. But ultimately what happens is that young people come to us and they say, I have a headache or my stomach hurts, and they want to go back to the hotel room and then they miss half the conference. If we can mitigate that and approach it beforehand, make sure they're eating well, sleeping, and drinking their water, it'll help. Large parish groups. Jake, how many is your group this year?
40.
Yeah, so I think you're one of the largest ones. So, and then Deanna, yours is probably 22, and then SLD and
We have 9.
9, and then how big is yours?
60.
60? Okay, yeah. So, yeah. So, bring in the smaller groups, and I'll show that on the next slide, because you're not going to be able to move as an entire pastorate group. My parish group has 4. They can all stay together. But for larger groups, you're going to need to break down into chaperones and young people together and not try to move as an entire group. Buddy system at all times. Young people are not to be on their own during this conference, whether that's going back to the hotel room, going to the convention center, Lucas Oil, walking to the bathroom. They need to have a buddy at all times. The rule in my group was always if I saw a young person without their buddy, the first time they got a warning, the second time they became my buddy and had to walk around and do what I wanted to do. Which usually meant sitting in the chapel because it was quiet. So, dedicated prayer time. So, buddy system at all times. We should not see anybody that has a tag that says Diocese of Lafayette, Indiana, without a buddy. Take care of yourself. If you have certain snacks or drinks that you need, if you need your special birthday cake hand sanitizer, you know, if you have coffee that you need to go get in the morning, realize you're gonna have to get up at like 4 a.m. to go get your coffee. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself. I'm a Cherry Coke person. I'm gonna be packing my Cherry Coke so that at 3 o'clock I can bust my Cherry Coke open and have a little caffeine hit. It's just what I need, and I know that for this conference. And then be flexible. Info is changing by the minute, and sometimes that's hard and it gives us a little whiplash. So know that Jessica and I are doing everything we can to keep everything copacetic, but there might be changes, and just roll with it with that. 2 years ago, we only had minor changes that affected the entire delegation. There may have been more things on my end, but I tried to protect our delegation from that as best as possible. So managing groups, like they said, this is not going to work in NCYC. Large groups together, not going to happen. Normally I would say do this with a buddy system that they can check in with chaperones, but knowing that we only have 5 breakouts or the thematic village, that really limits on what young people can be going to. So I would say more of this, where small groups are together with chaperones and young people, and you know, you might spread out to the different speakers to start with, and then knowing that speakers are moving, you may not like the next speaker that's coming into your room, so you and your group's gonna go to the thematic village. But, you know, trying to form some sort of small cohort might be the better option for this year. You'll get a better feel for it Friday morning when you walk in and realize what's going on, and then you might be able to go to the buddy system. But I would say to start with, look more at the small group model. As a chaperone, thank you. Group leaders cannot do their job without you. We ourselves cannot lead 60, 40, 22 youth with just one person. So you are a very essential person to make this ministry happen, and we can't do it without you. So thank you so much. Whether you're here because it's your first time or you fell in love with it multiple times ago, this is amazing, and I'm so appreciative of all of you. That said, model Christian behavior all times. From the time you arrive at NCYC until the time you get home, there's a code of conduct. Please model that for all of our young people. If you're frustrated, change the perspective or flip the script. You're going to get frustrated. It's just how it is. It's just how this conference is. That things are changing. Someone might be frustrating you. A young person might be getting on your nerves. You're not happy with the speaker. Prayer experience went too long. Whatever. Find the positive. That'll really be seen by your young people as well. If you're having a negative experience, they're going to have a negative experience. You aren't just a chaperone or role model for your pastorate group. Be accountable. You are a chaperone for your pastorate, for the diocese, and for all of NCYC. So if you see a young person acting a fool who's not of our diocese, correct the behavior, let one of their chaperones know, hey, just want to let you know this is happening, felt you should be aware of it, go on your merry way. I share this not to scare anybody, but to make you aware. In Columbus, we had a young person die at NCYC because they stepped off the curb and they were hit by a car. So watch all the young people around you. You're not just chaperoning your kiddos, you're chaperoning all the kiddos. And that said too, we're investing in our young people. Whether you did fundraisers to be able to go to NCYC or your parish is paying for you to go, it's an investment in our young people. So treat it that way. Be accountable. The last thing that you want is to have a parent come to you and say, Johnny said they had an awful time at NCYC. Can you tell me more about what happened? And then not being able to share anything. So be accountable for your time and recognize how we are investing in our young people and what they're going to bring to the future of the church. NCYC is what changed my life and kind of changed the trajectory for how I then got involved in ministry and everything else. And if it hadn't been for someone investing in me, I wouldn't be standing here. So kind of have that mentality when it comes to NCYC. And then who's been on a pilgrimage before? Okay, so you know pilgrimages are beautiful, amazing experiences, but they come with their own types of hardships. NCYC we're treating as a pilgrimage. Even though we're going downtown and staying in this beautiful hotel that's normally like $500 a night, it's going to have its moments where you're going to be worn out and exhausted and hungry and frustrated. So one of my favorite priests who I worked for in our attending, Father Jonathan Meyer, anytime we went on a trip, he would always change the perspective. And anytime there was a hardship or a struggle, he would ask us, are you loving Jesus? And of course you can't say no, you have to say yes, I'm loving Jesus. And that just helps change the perspective and change the mindset. Because even if you're frustrated or tired or you're hungry or you're worn out, always turning it back and focusing on Christ is important. So, specifics. Know where your teens are at all times. Don't be like how I was in my chaperones 2 years ago and find out later they went to Monument Circle. So, know where your teens are at all times. My chaperones were not watching 2 of my young people apparently. So I share that, again, open honesty, it happens, know where they are. Room checks nightly, remember safe and sacred, so men checking men's rooms, women checking women's room, making sure that only those young people assigned to that room are in that room, and generally they are gender specific. The only instances are some children might be staying with their parent this year. So the one thing that I've always done to make sure room checks are done is I put a little piece of blue painter's tape over the top of the door and tape it to the door jamb. My youth know, hey, I'm taking you in for the night. If you need out, text me, let me know if you're gonna go get your coffee at 4 a.m. But otherwise, I would know if they left their room because that tape would be pulled away. And the only way that tape should be pulled away is if it was an emergency. Otherwise, once we do room checks, and that helps the night walkers too, because then they know to look for tape that's been pulled away and that they're missing young people. So, fun little fact.
It was fun.
Yeah. We had young people 2 years ago, that got stuck in the elevator and we had to call 911.
Yeah, I was right there too because it was like right there. I think I called you.
Yeah.
That was my small group, and that was the night we left to go to the hospital.
And I could not get a hold of their group leader since we had already designated another group leader knowing that Christy could possibly go into labor because Paul was crashed for the night. He was dead asleep. So, yes, we had young people get stuck in an elevator because they decided to Grubhub Taco Bell at midnight.
They were jumping too.
And they were jumping in the elevator. So 911 had to get called. The hotel loved us. So, to some point, make sure your young people know that they are locked in their room for the night and not to leave. Because then it makes the hall workers, their job fun, it makes my job fun, it makes Jessica's job fun, and then we don't get any sleep because then we had to wait for those young people to get rescued from the fire department, and it was like another hour and a half later, and then the hotel did not like us, so be kind to our night walkers, be kind to your diocesan leaders. Make sure your kids know that they need to stay in their rooms. No teen goes anywhere alone. Indy is not like how it was 2 years ago. Reality is that due to the riots last year with COVID, Indy downtown it's not like it was. There's more homelessness. Things are still not in the best of shape. There's a lot more crime downtown. So So being aware of your surroundings is important, especially when we are walking in the early morning hours and the late evening hours down West Street. If you do see homeless, there are boxes on the corners to donate money to, but the city has asked that we instead give food, give clothing, give blankets, give anything but money. That would then make sure that they're taken care of, but giving them money, we don't know how that money is spent. So just giving money instead to organizations that help those who are on the streets is much more, stretches a lot farther, whereas giving them immediate needs such as blankets, cats, gloves, clothing, food, it helps supplement them. There's a code of conduct. Like I said, be accountable for how they spend their time. Please take care of yourself. Grumpy adults make grumpy teens. It's just how it goes. And then there is a daily group leader meeting in the evenings after we've started processing and sending kids to bed and having chaperones do night checks. Any questions on specifics? All right, if you need more, find a veteran. About half of us in here are veterans. We've done it more than once. If you've done it once, you know what you're doing. Rely on the diocesan team. All of us will be introduced at the rally, but myself, Jessica Wade, Julia, TC, Norma De La Rosa, who is the Director of Evangelization in Lebanon, Christy, keep it out, can't help it, and then Sue Bailey and her husband Bill, they are from Lafayette, so we do have a team that's been working for a while. There's the Chaperone Hospitality Room, like I said, kitty corner from the Griffin Ballroom. If you hear a piece of paper slide under your door late at night, it's not a creeper and it's not a bill. It's called the Lafayette Gazette, which we are continuing. Jake started for us. We are continuing. That will have fun facts, little tidbits for the day, prayer, that kind of stuff. We'll use flock notes to communicate both as email and text messaging. And then the most current information will be on the NCYC website or the app. They are not doing a program book this year. They've officially moved away from a handheld book. They are only using the app, which they started using 2 conferences ago and used more heavily last year, or 2 years ago. But they are not doing an actual program book. So all the speakers, the schedule, everything will be on that app.
Do you know if that app's active yet?
When I was in Kokomo, someone told me it was, and then on Tuesday, when I was in Lafayette, they told me it wasn't.
Okay.
So I've not downloaded it, so I'm not sure. Yeah.
What's the lock to know? Like, is it?
I'm not following any documents right now. So what, we're gonna set it up. So the diocese does not have flock notes, so it's actually gonna come from my parish. And we're just gonna set up an NCYC group to communicate that way.
Thank you.
Because then it'll be a temporary group, and then we can just delete it afterwards.
You know the parking situation
Oh, yeah.
at the JW?
So it's expensive to park at the JW, very expensive. I think it's like $35, $40 a day or 50 something per valet, which means your car can come in and out. I would suggest parking, let me go back to that. So if you're looking for bargain parking, right here, in between the railroad tracks and the convention center, are 2 lots. So Union Station is here, and then there's a lot here. It's about $10 a day. Or there is parking that's down this way. That's also fairly cheap. And I know a lot of people parked that 2 years ago. It's all surface parking. There are the parking garages. There's one here, there's one here, there's one here. Those will be a little bit more expensive. And then there is White River parking, which is by the state park and the Idleshore, that they have garage and surface parking. So if you go to, I believe it's visitindy.org, and then you can look at the parking situation and pre-book spots. So that's something that way you can pay in advance and know you'll have your ticket. They do that with the meters as well. So those are the best places to go.
You guys can also use Spot Hero. They actually saves a lot of money.
Say again?
Spot Hero.
Yeah, that. I knew there was an app too. Any other questions? Any other?
So you don't have to answer this now, but can I pick your brain for time about potential pickup locations you think
Yes.
might be good? Okay.
So Jessica and I are actually working on that for all of our community groups,
awesome.
so that we know where you guys are too.
Yes, I was struggling.
And are you guys in a bus?
No.
No, just cars?
Mhm.
Okay. Jessica and I are working on that.
Okay.
So that's yet to go.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts? I'm right at an hour.
I'll probably have questions in November when I'm up with you guys, but until then, it's pretty good.
Yeah. And if you need anything, feel free to contact Jessica Wade or myself. Normally, if Jessica doesn't know the answer, she forwards it to me anyway to pick my brain, make sure she's got it right, and then we'll respond. So like I said, we've got a great team who have been doing this for a while, and we're very excited because for a little while there, we weren't sure if NCYC was going to happen. So the fact that it is happening, it is in person, despite all of the changes and protocols, it'll still be an amazing experience. The young people are still going to experience Christ. That's the heart, that's what matters. The rest of the stuff, that's just inconvenience. And I think after the year and a half that we've lived of inconvenience, it is what it is. So recognizing that despite all the obstacles we've overcome and the losses that we've had, our young people are starting to experience Christ. All right. There are no other questions, thoughts, comments, inquiries. Let's pray, glory be, and then if you need to talk to me, I'll be around for a little bit. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Thank y'all.
Thank you.